Tyler Herro has been one of the most entertaining players to watch in the past year, no questions asked. I mean, talk about someone, let alone a rookie, with the swagger of a vet and the skills to back it up. There's no doubt in my mind we have seen glimpses of an all-star guard from Tyler Herro, like when he went off against the Celtics and dropped 37 points to seal the deal for the Heat. But now, the Miami Heat have a big decision to make with Tyler Herro because it's looking like he isn't even the best guard on the Heat. And that is what we're going to be discussing in today's video. But before we dive into this video, let me just say that it is completely okay for you to disagree with me on this whole topic or video in general, but we can disagree without disliking the video because that is very bad for the channel. I would much rather just discuss the topic in the comments below with you guys because I'm not always going to be 100% correct, and I love talking hoops with you guys as it is. But before we get into this video, if you guys have been enjoying the content lately, it would be absolutely amazing if you could subscribe if you're new and join the Woods crew. Let me just say we have big things in the works for 2021 and you are not going to want to miss any of the videos. Also, leaving a like below would be absolutely clutch because it lets YouTube know this video is a banger and shares it to help the channel grow. With all that out of the way, let's just dive right into the situation the Miami Heat are in and discuss their future with the guards they have. I really do like Tyler Herro, like I said. I mean, the man is a bucket and fits well with the Heat culture. I even made a video saying that he could shock us all and take a big leap after this short offseason, but it's looking like this will not happen based on what we've seen so far. Now, don't get me wrong, Herro has been balling out since the season started. I mean, he is averaging 17 points, 7 boards, and 5 assists per game on a solid shooting percentage in 35 minutes a game. He's been playing good, but basically the same as last year, even though he is a starter now, which brings us to the question, is Herro even the best guard on the Miami Heat? Well, as of right now, no. Because Dragic has been quietly putting on a show for the Heat, and I'm not even talking about this year alone, because when he went out in the playoffs, it's hard to deny that the Heat looked a lot worse without Dragic, who is one of the leading scorers for the Heat. And for all you guys that think this is false, the numbers for this season do not lie. Dragic is averaging similar numbers to Herro so far with 16 points, 3 boards, and 5 assists while playing an average of 8 less minutes per game than Herro, which is crazy. But that isn't even the main stat that proves this to be true. Let me just give you the plus minus of Goran Dragic and Tyler Herro when they are on the floor in the clutch so far this season. When Dragic is on the floor, the team has a plus 43.2, but when Herro is on the floor, the team has a minus 32.6, which is a monumental difference to say the least. Now, this is a small sample size and it could definitely change over time, but based on what we've seen so far, by the time that Dragic comes into the clutch, it is already too late for the Heat to come back, which has resulted in 2 losses, making the team 2-2. But it's clear that Dragic is playing better than Herro at the moment, or he just fits better with the starters than Herro, which brings us right into the unfortunate truth that may lead to Tyler Herro leaving the Heat. Going into the offseason after their championship appearance, the Heat basically made the decision that they want to run it back with the team they had, being that the free agency this year was very dry, and we all know they had their eye on Giannis for next summer. But in this small period of time, so many things have changed, which leads me and many others to believe that the Heat will not even get back to the finals unless they make a big move soon. Last season, it just seemed like all the cards were dealt to the Heat perfectly. I mean, just look at all the advantages they had that they normally wouldn't have. All their young talent got to hoop in the bubble with no fans, which allowed them to play at the highest level possible. A few teams in the East, the big one being the Nets, were riddled with injuries and didn't stand a chance in the playoffs, and besides Bam Adebayo and Dragic off and on the court, they were a completely healthy team, which honestly is rare that deep into the season. But despite all this, they lost to the Lakers, and now they are just running it back in hopes that their young talent in Bam and Herro take a big leap to make them better. Sounds like a bad plan to me, which is why many believe that a Herro trade could go down soon. I mean, if you just look at this Heat team, it's hard to see them becoming even better than they were in the playoffs last year. Duncan Robinson is already shooting the 3-ball at an elite level, so it's hard to see him getting any better than he already is. Kendrick Nunn definitely doesn't have the ceiling that the stars like Adebayo have, and Herro so far is looking like he hasn't taken that leap just yet. As well as the fact that teams that were already stacked like the Lakers, Bucks, and others went out and upgraded their rosters even more. which will create a bigger challenge for this young Heat team. Not to mention the stacked Nets team in the Eastern Conference, who I believe could easily take it all this year if the rest of their team is able to stay healthy, but that's for another video. But what makes a potential Herro trade seem so likely right now is the fact that Giannis signed his Supermax, and everyone who has been available next year is locked up. Paul George, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and more all signed extensions, which means the only option for the Heat next summer is if Kawhi Leonard somehow opts out of LA or Victor Oladipo. Yikes. But the best option for the Heat is actually available right now, and if you didn't know, I'm talking about James Harden. And if the Heat are in win now mode like they said, this is the move that they need to make as soon as possible. Like I said earlier, instead of hating, why don't you just hear me out here, and if you disagree, expose me in the comments below. But I don't care what anyone says about Tyler Herro and his potential, or the fact that he may become a star one day. James Harden is a certified superstar right now, and he would 100% push the Heat to a championship for another chance to win it all. Even if he is out of shape, James Harden has been putting on a show for the Rockets and is already averaging 37 points per game, which is just insane. Now, for all you about to say that it didn't lead to wins, half of the Rockets roster was out with COVID protocol, and once they came back last night and Harden had some decent players around him, they were able to get the W against the Kings. But despite all this, there are still many Heat fans who have been saying that Harden is, quote, a bad fit. So let's just get into why Harden is a great fit for the Heat. Fans have been quick to judge whether James Harden would fit with the Heat culture, but here's a quick story to answer the question. After Houston won a game last season, Russell Westbrook walked past the weight room and saw James Harden lifting weights. When Westbrook asked Harden what he was doing, Harden replied with, getting better. Harden's work ethic is not up for debate. In terms of playing style, Harden is the perfect fit alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Butler's role with the Heat last year was traditionally to drive to the hoop and scoring or passing out to open players. Butler passing out to an open Harden, who also efficiently drives to the hoop, could elevate the offense even further. An all-star caliber player like Harden would also garner a lot more attention than someone like Herro or Nunn would, allowing the role players around them to be open more often. The spacing that Harden would provide for the offense would also benefit Bam Adebayo. The lane would most likely be less cluttered with more room to roam, which fits into Bam Adebayo's offensive skill set. Harden was also great at lobbing the ball to former Rockets center Clint Capella when he was in Houston, and Adebayo could flourish with Harden in ways that Giannis Antetokounmpo would be unable to provide. If Miami threw out the lineup of Avery Bradley, James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Maurice Harkless, and Bam Adebayo, the plug-in of Bradley into the defense would allow Harden to guard the second guard. Even though Harden is an underrated defensive player, he is not able to defend the opponent's best guard, and the Heat would definitely be able to hide him to a lesser point than if they did with Duncan Robinson. So for all you guys questioning the fit of Harden, I know that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra would make it work and allow the Heat to contend. And keep in mind, they would still keep Dragic, who is a better guard on paper this season than Tyler Herro. But the unfortunate truth is, the Heat may have just ruined their chances of this trade, because now that Tyler Herro is showing he didn't take that all-star leap yet, the Rockets want more players like Precious Achiuwa and Duncan Robinson, which the Heat may not be willing to part with. But we will be taking a deeper dive into that trade itself in one of next week's videos. With all that being said, it's clear that Tyler Herro is not even the best guard on the Heat at the moment, and if the Heat want to win now, they should try and make a Herro package trade for Harden if it's not too late. Because as sad as it sounds, Tyler Herro's stock will only go down if he continues to play like an average good player in the league. I want to hear from you guys down below. Would you make this move if you still had the chance at Harden for Herro, knowing all the stats and facts I told you now? Or would you take the chance and potentially go into the playoffs this year without another star? Knowing Pat Riley, I believe this trade may still go down because Herro may not cut it for a championship this year. It will be very interesting to see what the Heat end up doing, because if they are in win now mode, I don't think they have what it takes this year to take a chip home with the stacked rosters that the Nets and Lakers have. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this unfolds. I really hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing if you're new and joining the Woods crew, because you will not want to miss any other videos if you enjoyed this one. I just started the channel and I'm hoping to go full time with it this year, but it cannot be done without people like you, and that's a fact. But regardless, I appreciate you watching no matter what. Next video will be on Anthony Edwards and the fact that he is living up to the #1 pick hype, potentially. But until then, you guys just stay tuned. I'll catch you all in the next one. Woods out.